Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, presented by Superbook Sports. Taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome into Coffee Break. There's tons to get into, plus Avalanche breaking news. We're obviously going to get into the Broncos loss, what that means. I saw one of the comments that was like, why is Sean Payton not the problem? Everybody's putting the problem on Russ. I agree. We'll get into that. But first, Cecil's Fantasy 5 Tips presented by Hooters, as we will bring in our very own Cecil Lammey. Cecil, good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'd be better if the Broncos were good, but they're not good. But I am not letting them hurt me anymore. For the last 3 games on the post-game show, I know it's been very entertaining for people to see me lose my mind, but I have physically gotten ill. And even last night when I was like, I'm not going to let him do it, I'm not going to, and then I'd get mad and my blood would start to boil. Like, yeah, there's a lot of problems here, and Sean Payton is not immune from those problems being on him.
Cecil, I can't believe you've actually gotten sick, my friend. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, whatever. Like, it's, I think it's just what you get out, what you put in, and it's like, hey, I have to witness that and then react to it, and I'm going to be real. You seek the truth and speak the truth, and I'm going to be real about this team, and the truth is they're the worst team in the league, and it's bad, and it's bad for everybody. They have a George Payton problem, so I've told people it's 3 things. 3 things, and you get to pick. Pick any of the one of the 3. I don't care. Your truth is your truth. It's either they're tanking on purpose, it's either Sean Payton forgot how to coach, or it's Sean Payton doesn't have enough Sean Payton guys. So you tell me what it is. Are they tanking? Did Sean Payton forget how to do his job, or do they not have enough Sean Payton guys? Mine is the latter, but I could entertain the other 2.
Okay, well, we've obviously seen the play of Mathis, who he goes to block the Kansas City Chiefs players. Patrick Mahomes runs right past him. So you're like, well, is there a game inside the game being played and maybe they are starting to tank? So you get on that one. Did Sean Payton forget to coach? Why did he call the timeout? We're going to get into that later in the show. No one knows that answer. And then the third one, does Sean Payton not have enough of Sean Payton's guys? My biggest thing with that is he said, I'm going to be pissed off if this team isn't a playoff team. So he must have thought that he had enough talent coming out of training camp. Now, what the heck happened between then and now, we will never know, Cecil.
Yeah, we'll never know. And I think if you're Sean Payton, you thought this team was one way, and then you got into the weeds with everybody, and you're like, oh, wait, they're not good. They're not good. There's a lot of problems with this team, the Vance Joseph thing, like the Russell Wilson thing, like there's a ton of things to get to.
Oh, there's so much. But lucky for you, we've also got fantasy this week. So in case you don't want to relive the Thursday night disaster game for the Denver Broncos, there's going to be more football on Sunday. What's your best fantasy tip for us?
Yeah, best fantasy tip is watch out for some injury situations that we're watching for on Friday. Okay, now not every game is a revenge game, but if Tyrod Taylor gets in for the Giants at quarterback against the Bills, his old team, like, it's not necessarily a revenge game. It's not like when Jeudy goes somewhere and plays against the Broncos. But anyway, we'll get to that. But like the Tyrod Taylor, like watch out for Daniel Jones dealing with what is it, a neck thing. Like watch out for the Mike Evans situation in Tampa Bay. He's going to test out his hamstring today. So Friday is a big day for the injury report. Watch your guys like Daniel Jones, get Tyrod Taylor, who could be a top 10 fantasy quarterback this week from the waiver wire to your starting lineup this week. And that's a Sunday night game. So keep that in mind. And then the Tampa situation, Mike Evans and his hamstring, not our Mike Evans with the mom jeans and the big forehead and the mom hips. Like, no. Mike Evans in Tampa, he might not play. So maybe a guy like Devin Tompkins would do a little bit more. Maybe their tight end, Cade Otton, would do a little bit more. So I think today's a really big day for watching some of the injured players out there for your fantasy teams.
I've been fascinated by these London games and how it's kind of dependent on when the teams are getting out there, because it seems like teams that get out there later on in the week, they're struggling a little bit, but the teams that get out there early, they've kind of adjusted. How are you looking at this Titans-Baltimore game?
Yeah, as one to go, I wish they'd play some of the young guys a little bit more. Zay Flowers is the player to concentrate on with Baltimore. Odell Beckham Jr. is good to go, but he's still like a what the heck flex. And for people that want to know, like there's, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and flex plays. And then there's guys you just go, what the heck? What the heck? Odell Beckham Jr. He's more like a wide receiver 7. Okay, and it's Tennessee. They'll play some tough defense, and if Beckham scores, then he'll outperform your expectations, but you're not relying on that. Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, those are the more reliable. You're not relying on the Baltimore ground game because it's just kind of a mess. It's stop making Justice Hill a thing. He's like the fetch. Like, stop making Justice. It's not going to be a thing. I said the same thing about J.K. Dobbins. Gus Edwards I like, but he's a fullback basically. And on the flip side with Tennessee, Traylon Burks, I'll have to see what he does today. I don't believe he's practiced this week. I can double check that. So it's just going to be DeAndre Hopkins. He's getting like 70% of their looks. That's fine. I still think they should use more of Chiggy Okonkwo. Get Chiggy with it. I love him. They're not. He's their tight end that I thought the Broncos should take instead of Greg Dulcich. Either way. And then Tyjae Spears, the backup to Derrick Henry. It's blasphemous to say this, but I think he kind of looks better than Derrick Henry at times. So, some young players to watch, but overall, these morning games, I mean, you wake up, you have a certain time, everything's getting started, and it's already in the third quarter because they're in London. Like, I do not like it. Fortunately for fantasy GMs, you don't have two really significant teams playing this week.
I was going to say, Cecil, it seems like the talk around Derrick Henry is such a powerhouse, and it's like, what's happening? So if you're a fantasy owner and you did take Derrick Henry, do you continue to start him just because he's that name and you never know when he can take off?
Yeah, that's what you do. I'm a start your studs guy, and we know regardless that Derrick Henry is a stud. It only takes one big run. So yeah, you might just be starting him as an RB2 rather than the normal RB1 that you get every week.
Okay, sounds good. Let's stick inside the AFC West. Obviously, the two teams, the Chiefs and the Broncos, have already played this week. Any other names that you like in the West?
Yeah, I like it because Austin Eckler is going to be back. And Austin Eckler being out there is great news for the Chargers, who need as much help as they possibly can. Eckler's going to provide that. And it's one of those situations, guys get to a certain point in their career and they get banged up and they come back, and I'll say, well, wait a week. Like the Jonathan Taylor thing, right? He was just back this last week. And while I wasn't recommending Zach Moss, who went off, by the way, when Taylor's back, which is the Zach Moss conversation. Like with Taylor, I would said, hey, let's see what the ankle looks like. Let's give him a week. They'll ease him back in. With Eckler, it's like, no, plug him in. Everybody start him. Run, scream in the streets. Hey, we got Austin Eckler back. That's what you should do this week. So yes, 1,000%. The Raiders are the Raiders. Not much to watch there. But Austin Eckler being back is absolutely huge for all fantasy GMs.
Give me a name that maybe most people aren't going to know about, but you think he's slowly moving up here for fantasy GMs.
Jeff Wilson. The Dolphins. Like, you look at Devin Achane now missing until week 11. Jeff Wilson just activated, and he's behind Raheem Mostert. I could also say Salvin Ahmed. I could also say Chris Brooks. They've got a trio of backs there in Miami behind Mostert and behind Achane that are really good. So I'll throw out some waiver bucks. I want one of those Dolphins running backs. And also have to throw out love for Keontae Ingram. I love him. Absolutely one of my favorite players. With Brock Purdy, by the way, down at the Shrine game 2 years ago. So Keontae Ingram gets the start now with James Conner banged up in Arizona. Ingram's missed 2 games with a neck injury, but he's back. He's their starter. And again, you're looking for waiver wire help. You've got it in the forms of Dolphins running backs, plural, and Keontae Ingram, the Cardinals starter.
Okay, real quick, Cecil, stepping away from fantasy. The question everybody seems to be asking on Twitter is it time to bench Russell Wilson? Now, again, we're stepping away from fantasy, so we're talking actual real-life game scenarios here.
Yeah.
Is it time to bench Russell Wilson, or does that seem pointless? Because he's getting paid so much, and we know that we don't have the answer at another quarterback.
Yes, and I have 2 rules in life, Rachel. You know what they are. Everyone's saying with me, don't be dumb, don't be in a cult. And I think it's dumb to suggest that Russell Wilson should be benched. Now, if you want to have the conversation, moving on from Russell Wilson after this year, 1,000%, I'm right there with you. But you've got him. You're starting him. You don't really want to win more games, and Jarrett Stidham wouldn't really be a better option anyway. So stick with Russ, start with Russ, lose with Russ, and then move on from Russ.
I love reading the comments when you bring up benching Russell Wilson. It's fascinating. Cecil Lammey is always an absolute pleasure. Happy Friday, my friend.
Thank you.
Cecil Lammey's Cecil's Fantasy 5 Tips presented by Hooters. We always love having Cecil on the show. Makes it super fun, but we will move on now. Woo! Man, you guys, this Denver Broncos team, it is a freaking struggle. And actually, before I want to get into that, I want to just start the show on some good notes. because Devontae is staying with the Colorado Avalanche for another 7 years. You love to see it if you're a Colorado Avalanche fan. They just signed him to a 7-year contract extension. We heard earlier this morning, essentially, that it was going to be close to happening. So we're happy to see this. Just real quick, some stats for you. Best plus 122 since joining the Avs, 169 combined regular season and playoff points with Avs, ranked 6th among NHL defensemen, and the Avs are 139, 45, and 16 in the regular season with Taves in the lineup. This is great news if you're a Colorado Avalanche team. And if you're not a fan of the Colorado Avalanche, get on board, you guys. This Broncos team is boring. This Broncos team is a disaster. I want to watch some good talent out on the ice. Watch the Colorado Avalanche. I promise you will not be disappointed. Good morning to everybody in the comments. Mel, I knew you were going to be here today. Just got 100 times better with the Devontae's news. Yes, it did. Okay, want to read some of your guys' comments. This is my favorite part of the show, honestly, because I love seeing either people are like, everybody calm down, everything's going to be okay with the Denver Broncos, or everything is on fire and the world is ending because the Denver Broncos absolutely stink. You never know what you're going to get. And it kind of gives me an idea of which way you guys want the show to go to. So always let me know in the comments how you're feeling. I love listening to it. I saw somebody who mentioned Jeudy. Yeah, that was the drama I didn't know I needed on a Thursday night. Again, I thought that the Broncos were going to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think we all knew that the Broncos were going to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. But all of a sudden, before the game even starts, you're seeing just drama unfold on the sidelines. And Jeudy, this is my only thing with him. He goes on after post-game during his interview and he goes, I don't remember that. Oh, really, Jeudy? You don't remember dancing behind the live shot of NFL Network and screaming at cameras and, kind of making almost a fool of yourself because you got called out? Fascinating. You don't remember that 10 minutes because I think everybody else, an NFL fan, I think they all remember that moment. So shocking that you don't. You didn't do anything in the game anyways. 3 targets, I think, and 14 receiving yards. You did absolutely nothing. I will say one of his catches did look pretty decent, but Russell Wilson also had a complete bomb for him sending that way. So I definitely do. I'm just full send. Get him out of here. He doesn't want to be here. If you're Sean Payton, you're embarrassed by the fact that your wide receiver was creating so much drama. Get him out of here. Send him. I'm not interested in dealing with him anymore and talking about him. And I think a lot of fans are actually starting to feel that way. Like, clearly, Jeudy, you have decided that you do not want to be a Denver Bronco anymore. You are attacking legends when you just don't attack legends. Like, if you want to be a legendary person in Denver Broncos history, you're not going out there and making a fool of yourself. And that's what he's continued to do. It's been frustrating. Let's move on to Sean Payton making just terrible, terrible mistakes. And Cecil Lammey just mentioned it in our Fantasy 5 segment, kind of what does he do? Did he forget how to coach? What are we doing, Sean Payton? Last week, I thought it was bad because we just saw a complete 180 between the first and second half. This week, it was like, we don't even know what the heck is happening. Let's start with this, actually, first. Marvin Mims Jr. has been an absolute stud for this Denver Broncos team. He is on the uprising. He has been young, and we've seen few mistakes out of him. I get it. But let's real quick talk about the fact that he had a career low 12 snaps for the Denver Broncos. 12 snaps for them. I'm just appalled by that statement, first of all. And he wasn't targeted a single time. Marvin Mims Jr. wasn't targeted a single time, and he's been on the uprising. That's like not using Jaleel McLaughlin, and he was a starter yesterday. Him and Javonte Williams, oh my gosh, you guys, that is a duo that we all love to see. I'm so glad to see Javonte out there just pummeling through people again. And it makes me so happy. It makes me so, so, so happy to see that. But I am just appalled by the fact that we didn't see any Marvin Mims Jr. yesterday. Not a single thing. I'm like, what are we doing, Sean Payton, on that one? There's so many. I have like a whole list on my computer, you guys, of just things where I'm like, Sean Payton, what on earth are we doing? Also, why did Sutton not run out of bounds when there's 27 seconds left at half? I'm sorry. Are we just trying to waste the clock? And what are we doing? Why didn't he just run out of bounds so that the clock stopped and they had a little bit of extra time to figure out the next play? Well, I don't know. That doesn't even make sense. I feel like Pee Wee football understands the fact that if the clock's running down and like half is coming up, you run out of bounds. And then, of course, we have the famous Sean Payton calling the timeout. I don't think anybody understands why he would do that. If you have the answer to that question, please let me know. And of course, he called himself like a bonehead mistake or something like that. Sean Payton, we're seeing a lot of that coming out from you, and I'm really starting to be concerned. And it goes back to the fact that everybody around was like, well, he's a Super Bowl winning coach. Great. He did that 14 years ago. That doesn't even matter anymore. He's proving now he can't even be an NFL coach. He just thought he was going to come back in because he was so highly praised and things were going to be great. Fantastic, Sean Payton. Well, you've done nothing. All you've done is bring negative vibes to this team, it feels like. You put us in the headlines, and then you have not lived up to the expectations that you've had. It is beyond frustrating. I am so angry. Also, the other question where I was just like, seriously, this is what's going to happen, was the illegal touching on Riley Moss. Everyone's like, Riley Moss is out there. Yay, so excited to see what he's going to be able to do. He runs out of bounds, and then he comes back in, and he's the first one to touch the ball. This is like basic football moves, you guys. Basic football rules that they just do not seem to be picking up on. And I am frustrated by it. I know Broncos country is frustrated. Everyone is saying tank for Caleb Williams. Yeah, agreed. So I love this because if you haven't seen this, this is so freaking funny, you guys. The fact that this actually is even out on the internet, the Broncos play calls get exposed. I actually have a serious question, and I don't know if anybody will know the answer to this, but you can like easily read the play calls right there. My biggest thing is, does Prime Video get like fined for showing, like being that close in that somebody could grab a screenshot? Like, I feel like you're supposed to be further, like far enough away, I guess, so that you can't get something like that. And if you thought that the Denver Broncos weren't going to get any worse, well, now everybody knows their play calls, so they're going to have to change things, which means that they're all going to have to learn some new terminology and stuff like that. And that is just going to be a disaster for a team that already they can't seem to figure it out on offense. And Russ also, have you guys seen his wristband? He's got like coaching calls. So it's not like it's super easy to read or even find. The lettering is so small because it's coaching calls. It doesn't make any sense. None of this makes any sense. I'm just lost by everything that we're seeing with this Denver Broncos team. And I'm just like, what are we doing here? Young players are going to make mistakes. Absolutely. That's why you just get them in there, stick them in there, and let them do it. That's one thing I don't have any problem with when it comes to getting rid of Frank Clark. Also, yeah, Frank Clark, he's officially been released. I don't know anybody in the history of forever that's ever taken a $1.7 million pay cut just to get out of their job. But Frank Clark felt that he could do it, and he did it. That's how bad things must be. $1.7 million, you guys. Could you imagine what you could do with $1.7 million? But anyways, going back to the main point. Randy Gregory, Frank Clark, they're saying we're just going to let the new guys do it, which I'm totally agree with at this point. This season's a bust. I'm going to be fascinated on Christmas Eve what the attendance at Mile High is going to look like when we've got the Broncos and the Patriots playing. Two really, really bad teams. I don't think we're going to see very many seats filled by any means. So play the young guys. I love it. Like Jerry Jeudy shouldn't have even played the game yesterday. Let Marvin Mims go in his spot. I would much rather have preferred that. And to everybody too who's putting all of the blame on Russell Wilson, here's the other thing. I tweeted out yesterday, and it got a lot of traction, that I said, I know people are going to yell at me. But I feel bad for Russell Wilson. I feel terrible. That man is putting this team on his back in so many ways to try to make plays, and yet he gets all of the criticism. Sean Payton, I'm kind of pissed off about this. It seems like he's taking a shot at Russell Wilson in his press conference yesterday. He said, to win in our league, you've got to be better throwing the ball. Well, you also need open receivers to be able to throw the ball. And yes, Russ did make some mistakes. We saw a lot of his hype play into the game yesterday. I get it. And then he had the 2 turnovers. And then Sean Payton goes on to say, obviously the 2 turnovers by me are unacceptable. They can't happen. Russell Wilson says that in his press conference. Yeah, of course it's unacceptable, you guys. But it is so freaking frustrating that Sean Payton just seems to be throwing Russ out there. I went back and I watched a majority of the game. I won't say I got through all of it, but I watched a majority of the game. Do you know how often there was a wide receiver who was actually open? Maybe an eighth of the time. And at that point, the offensive line in the pocket had already started to crumble, so Russ was having to run. It's a disaster. the wide receivers aren't giving open. I do have to give credit to Courtland Sutton, though, because his catch was phenomenal. And and first of all, I was kind of appalled that the refs didn't even, the fact that they had to challenge that. And it wasn't just oh yeah, let's check back with New York real quick. It's going to be an easy touchdown. The fact that Sean Payton even had to challenge that was kind of frustrating to me. We see them overturn calls all the time. It was clearly a touchdown right there. But I am just so frustrated with the fact that everybody is blaming Russell Wilson for this. You guys, he doesn't have anybody that's open. His pocket is crumbling by the time, and then he's having to run. And you're seeing him run constantly. And I'm pissed off because when he got absolutely hit out of bounds, not a single Broncos player went up to their quarterback to get him up and get him away from all the Chiefs players that were heckling him. Are you kidding me? You have a guy who's clearly going out there and trying to ball so hard, and not a single player is going to go over there to go get him? That's just disgusting. I don't care. I understand that things are bad, and I understand he's getting paid a lot of money, and that's the other thing, too, that's really pissed me off. I said I feel bad for Russell Wilson, and everyone's like, you should never feel bad for a millionaire. There's nothing to do with it. You have a player who's going out there and putting his heart on the line to do things, and you're saying because he makes a lot of money that you shouldn't feel bad for him? That's a sad approach to a lot of things, you guys. I got frustrated by those comments yesterday. Let's see. Rachel, Russ was in bounds when he got hit. Yes, but he definitely got taken to the ground a little bit harder once he was outside. That's my point. Yeah, he did get hit. It wasn't a dirty hit by any means, but he definitely got punched down to the ground, and everybody was heckling him. And so when he got up, not a single Broncos player was around there. Also, on a positive note, loved seeing Tim Patrick out there heckling Kansas City Chiefs players. I loved to see that. I'm so happy that Tim Patrick is still traveling with the team. It's great to see him out there just being, I don't know, that support system for the wide receivers. I love that. I think him and Courtland Sutton, I was so looking forward to seeing that duo back out there. And of course, we have the Jerry Jeudy thing, but that ship has sailed. I don't know who's going to pick up that guy, but I enjoyed seeing Tim Patrick out there just being like, oh, you know what? Let me heckle everybody. You know who else is a positive note on this Denver Broncos team? And that's why I really, really, really just hope that nothing happens to him. Patrick Surtain. I really hope that the Denver Broncos don't trade him. And I know you can probably get so much capital, and he is the number one capital piece that you can bring in for this draft. But his demeanor and the way he plays the game, he cares so much, you guys. There were so many times that it wasn't even his coverage, and you saw him running over to make tackles. You saw him sticking to guys like glue. And I know that Travis Kelce, they put him on Travis Kelce because they said, hey, everything else we're not doing isn't working. Travis Kelce was open so many times, but they put Pat Surtain on him, and he was stuck there. And even Travis Kelce, who made the play, it's okay, but at least we saw better coverage on him. Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes have an unbelievable chemistry. And so when you watch that, there's one thing that you could know a play, but when you have that chemistry and you see that guy, you see Travis Kelce moving even just one more step, but Patrick Mahomes is going to meet him, that's really hard to coverage. But Pat Surtain really cared. And that's what I really love to see. There's not a lot of guys on this team anymore that it seems like they really, really care. And Pat Surtain did that yesterday. Let's see. Also, in the first half, Alex Singleton, Josie Jewell. Oh my gosh. I was like, you guys seem to be chasing every single freaking play. But then in the second half, I felt like the coverage kind of tightened up a little bit. So they made second half adjustments, which I liked to see. And that's how VJ honestly saved his job too, is the fact that he was able to help this team figure out how to stop the trick plays. And that was it. And everyone's like, I can't believe the score was only 19-8 for the Denver Broncos or for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm like, well, you guys, they were playing trick plays pretty much the entire time, it seemed like, against the Broncos. Do you know when you practice your trick plays when you're playing a bad team? Patrick Mahomes really would have been in his head, and we're going to get into the Justin Simmons interceptions because I find that fascinating. But when you get into a team's head and you're just like, oh, we can obviously beat them, so let's try out these plays. You did it. And that's exactly what they did. They looked at the Denver Broncos like, you are a bad enough team that we're just going to try these trick plays. And the Denver Broncos stopped them. They stopped them, and that's what you like to see. I'm like, all right, this team isn't getting down in the dumps on themselves. They're going out there. They're still playing competitive football, and it is crazy the 180s we are seeing between this team week in and week out. 1 week it's the defense. They can't do anything. The next week it's the offense. It can't do anything. Like, there's no consistency here with this Denver Broncos team. I started the game off essentially as soon as the Broncos defense took the field, and I was like, oh, well, here's the part where I just lose all faith. And they came out there and they actually stuck. They took what was being said around them, and they took it to heart. And that saved VJ's job. I thought he was going to be fired this morning, everybody. I really did. I thought we were going to be saying peace out to Vance Joseph. Good luck with your next team or wherever you land. But no, he saved his job because they were able to stop all of the trick plays against the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's see. Going up. Let's read some more of your guys' comments. Definitely lots of good ones. Can we flex the Buff game? I'm excited for tonight's game. The Broncos should definitely be they should win. They play down to their level of competition, just a teensy bit. So it is kind of fascinating to see that. We can get into that because I definitely too want to talk about a little bit of the Buffs. And oh my gosh, I just looked at the time. So yes, let's talk about it. Prime's message to the team and to his coaches, where we're not trying to stay close to the teams like Arizona State. We are trying to go out there and we are trying to compete with teams like Alabama and Ohio State. And that's why he's doing this. And I hope that message sticks. There is something about somebody when you look up to somebody, and I think so many of those players look up to Coach Prime in that locker room, and that's why this has all started to work. I hope they take that message to heart and they say, absolutely, we're not here to compete with the Stanfords, the Arizona States. We are here to compete with Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson when they're really good. Those are the teams we want to be competing against. And I saw this question, so you let me know in the comments. I'm very curious. Which happens first? The Denver Broncos make a playoff appearance, or Coach Prime and the Buffaloes make it into the extended college football playoffs? I'm going to let you guys think on that for a quick second. Put it in the comments which one you think will actually happen first. Because it's an interesting question. And could the Broncos somehow land the number 1 pick? I think right now they're supposed to pick 3rd. Is Drake May going to be the answer to all of the Denver Broncos problems? I don't know. Caleb Williams might be. But Drake May, I'm not 100% sold on him. Now, do you trade up to get the 1st round pick? Because that's what we're all talking now. We're only 6 weeks into the season, and that's what we're having to talk about. So do they do that? Do they trade up to try and get Caleb Williams? If they do, maybe get some other surrounding cast too while you trade off everybody. That's going to be interesting. And then you can possibly land in the playoffs in the next 2 years if you're really lucky, next 2. Or does Coach Prime stay in Boulder? He gets more of his guys, builds around his team of what he wants, and the extended college football playoffs come, obviously. That's going to be exciting. I love that. It's almost like March Madness type style. So I definitely will see. Drake May is good, real good. Think Justin Herbert. I don't know about that one. I don't know. Dion has a clear vision and identity. True. People are saying the Buffs. The Buffs make the college football college football player. Jake Shapiro, good morning, my friend. How are you? I hope you're doing well. College playoffs, Buffs. Coach Prime makes the playoffs, Buffs. Prime, college playoffs. Wow. Nobody believes in this Denver Broncos team, that's for sure. So everybody is saying the Buffs. Please don't trade up. Wow, people don't want them to trade up, huh? Interesting. Okay, you guys, it's a Friday. I'm going to go get my hair cut. Should I dye my hair a different color? Let me know in the comments too as we will end this show. Sorry, everybody. The Broncos are 1-5. That's what it is. Get ready for a whole lot of draft talk for the next upcoming months. Russell Wilson getting benched. That's going to be another question mark for a lot of people. Tons of fun stuff. I appreciate you all hanging out with us in the comments. And of course, we're happy for the Colorado Avalanche. 7 more years of Taze. That's what you love to see. We'll see you guys back here on Monday, 10:30 a.m. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. We'll see you then.